Hello friends, welcome back to the video for discussion of remaining part of fibroid that we have covered so far. We have seen about the management and we have seen about the management part is remaining. We have seen about the etiology, the risk factors and various other causes like what are the symptoms, what are the signs, how you will investigate. So now coming to the management investigation, we have covered briefly. There you will first of all, when a woman comes to you, what is the presenting complaint, which is and you have come to a provisional diagnosis of fibroid. So what will you be evaluating? You will be evaluating her hemodynamic condition. First of all, you will check her pallor, then you will confirm whether pallor is present or not by lab investigation of CBC, her hemoglobin status you will be doing. Then you will be subjecting her to ultrasound. Ultrasound is the basic investigation which is to be done in cases of if you suspect fibroid in a woman, or to if you want to rule out fibroid. Ultrasound is present very fairly among the community, and you can subject her, you can send her to the ultrasoundologist, and then you write down in your where you write the investigation part ultrasound, you mention what you want to see exactly, so that the sonologist can also focus on that part also. And then if on an ultrasound, I have told you it looks hypoechoic. Hypoechoic means it looks more black as compared to the normal uterine muscles. If suppose you are getting structure like this on ultrasound, above is the bladder, we need a bladder window, her bladder should be full. Woman asks you what preparation she need to go with for ultrasound, then you tell her hold your urine and then you go to the sonologist. That urine should be held, you should feel pressure for urinating, so that there becomes a good window through the bladder, urinary bladder, and below you see the ultrasound of section of uterus, this is representing. And if whatever blackish the part of uterus is, the ultrasound is hypoechoic. Hypoechoic means it is reflecting the sound waves back less as compared to the normal uterine musculature. So you will see a area which is less black, which is more black than the rest of the myometrium. Always remember, it will be hypoechoic, means it is reflecting less of the sound waves back to be picked up by the probe, so it looks blackish, more black as compared to the remaining musculature. So this is the ultrasound feature you get on you have confirmed. Now what is the role of MRI? Do you subject each and every woman of fibroid to MRI? No, each and every woman is not to be subjected, although the sonologists they mention kindly correlate clinically and advise MRI pelvis for better evaluation. So you need this better evaluation when suppose a woman is case of infertility, then you may need this better evaluation of at exactly what position the fibroid is present and how many fibroids are present, and if you are subjecting her to myomectomy for this case for infertility, whether it will, so that you can know whether it will help her, or you have to count what are the number of fibroids you have to remove in cases of myomectomy. So in those cases you may need further evaluation, so you don't need to put each and every woman of fibroid for MRI stating that you need better evaluation. There is no need of any better evaluation. Now hysterosalpingography, you put some water inside the endometrial cavity and you do the ultrasound. This is better for submucosal fibroids. Also DNC may be done. I have told you there is a association of 3% with endometrial carcinomas. So if her clinical condition is that she is menstruating heavily, or you see that there are other features of high estrogen, like she is obese, much obese, then you can put her to DNC before subjecting her to hysterectomy. So these are the investigation which are required. Now after investigating, after coming to the diagnosis that she is a fibroid, I have told you which fibroids are to be treated, which are not to be treated. Now you have picked up those fibroids that need treatment. So after coming to those treatment, what are the treatment options that are available to you? So there are medical treatment, minimal invasive surgeries and surgical treatment. So what are the, why we go with this 3 different modalities of treatment? One by one we will discuss. Suppose a woman is having fibroid and she comes with you only with the complaint of menorrhagia or dysmenorrhea, then what you are supposed to do, if you put her to the simple NSAIDs and tranexamic acid combination, either only NSAID or tranexamic combination, and if her menorrhagia is relieved with that, then you tell her, assure her that this is the treatment you will continue during your periods, take tranexamic acid and mefenamic acid combination. So NSAIDs and tranexamic acid. This is the first line. Majority of women, they get relief with this treatment during periods. As soon as the onset of period, you start using this, and this is the only medical management required in many of the women. Her dysmenorrhea and menorrhagia is relieved and she leads a better life. Now what other medical management options are present? It is RU 486 or low dose mifepristone. It is anti-progesterone, you all know, and danazol can also be used. It was used earlier, but because of its side effects and its cost, it is now no longer used for this condition. But theoretically you should be aware that it is also used. And the fourth one is GnRH analog. So what are the tranexamic acid, NSAID I told you. Now what is the role of RU 486 or low dose mifepristone? It can be given in either 10 milligram or 25 milligram preparation. It is available in the market. So when mifepristone is to be used? Mifepristone, suppose she is having menorrhagia and what she is perimenopausal. You know that she is in her 40s and there are some symptoms of perimenopausal stage like hot flushes and other things, and she is perimenopausal and you want to gain some time so that surgery or minimal invasive surgery can be avoided in the woman. So for that you opt for this medical treatment, number 1. Number 2, what are the other indication? You want to put her to surgical treatment, but maybe she is anemic and she doesn't, or you don't want to give her blood transfusion, and you want to gain time to build her hemoglobin, and meanwhile you also want to reduce the size of the fibroid so that the surgery becomes easier. So these are the 2 conditions where this medical management has to be used. Suppose a woman is coming in her 38 year of age, then just to gain time to reach her menopause, this will not be sufficient, because what happens, as long as you give this treatment, almost 80% they are relieved, and what happens as you stop, the size of the uterus, the size of the fibroid grows back again and her symptoms come again. So she is not relieved of her condition. So in that case, minimal invasive or direct surgery is advisable. But suppose she is around 42, 45 and you expect her menopause soon, then in that case you can put her on medical management to avoid either minimal invasive or surgical treatment. Same is with GnRH analog. you want to gain time to build her hemoglobin, you want to stop her menses so that she doesn't bleed any much more, and you get the time, the fibroid size becomes smaller, and these are the condition when you can go for, or she is near her menopause, so that you can avoid any intervention in her. So this is the only condition where she can use this thing. Or immediately she doesn't want to undergo surgery. Suppose her children are going some exam, so she says, after 3 months I will get admitted for the treatment. So in that case also you can start with this, only to buy some time and to reduce the size of the fibroid. Also one more indication, suppose she is a case of infertility and you have come to know that her infertility is because of some fibroid which is blocking the cornu. In that case what you can do, you can put her on either on GnRH analog, especially GnRH analog, for some time the size decreases, and as after completion of the treatment you start her for ovulation induction and for her infertility treatment. Then in that case also it can be beneficial, because the size near the cornu of the fibroid, it decreases, the cornu opens, and the blocking effect of the fibroid on the system, and hence the infertility part is relieved. So that is also one of the indication where you specially use GnRH analog and not mifepristone in that case. So these are the condition. You start mifepristone specially on day 2, of period, and what you will tell her before initiation of the treatment, otherwise she will get annoyed over you that my periods have stopped. You have to tell her that when the mifepristone is on, it will be continued daily for almost 3 to 6 months. Initially 3 months, then we will review, and if you are getting relief, then we can continue for maximum of 6 months. So she will experience amenorrhea. Okay, what she will experience? Amenorrhea. It is an anti-progesterone. Now with GnRH analog also she will experience amenorrhea. Also with GnRH analog she may experience hot flashes, those perimenopausal symptoms she may experience. So GnRH analog maximum can be given for 6 months. You can leuprolide is used mainly. Leuprolide, either you can give monthly injection or you can give 3 monthly injection. Various preparations are present in the market, but in this case when you are giving GnRH analog, always give calcium and vitamin D along with that, so that she is not developing osteoporosis as a side effect of this condition. If you want to continue it longer than 6 months, then you can also continue it with OC pills. You can add OC pills along with this GnRH analog. So this is the medical management. So what is the minimal invasive surgery? We can do minimal invasive surgery. It can be surgical treatment is very simple. You subject her to hysterectomy. It is the definitive treatment. Hysterectomy can be either abdominal laparotomy or laparoscopic or vaginal. So this is the surgical treatment. Now minimal invasive treatment. What are the various minimal invasive treatment which are present? Number 1, you can go for, if it is a submucous fibroid, if it is only a submucous fibroid, you can go for either DNC, or if it is some embedded, then you can go for hysteroscopic. Under direct visualization, hysteroscopic myomectomy. If if the submucous fibroid is also inside the myometrium, then it is better to do it with laparoscopic guidance, hysteroscopic myomectomy to avoid any perforation, uterine perforation. So these are the minimal invasive surgery. What else? You can also put her to uterine artery embolization. Uterine artery embolization through femoral root, percutaneous femoral root. You reach the uterine arteries and then you block them by either by foam or by spring coils. You block them, and what happens? The blood supply to the fibroid is restricted. Overall uterus is restricted, to fibroid is also restricted, and it shrinks in size. So this is the uterine artery embolization can be done. It was first of all done in reported in 1991. So it is a very recent thing. What else? There is also MRI guided. What you do? MRI guided percutaneous laser ablation. MRI guided percutaneous laser ablation using high intensity focused ultrasound, high intensity HIFU, high intensity focused ultrasound. Also you can go for laparoscopic myolysis using either ND-YAG laser. These are all advances. They are present only in tertiary care centers. They are not present in secondary or primary centers. Then cryoprobe or diathermy, you can use it. But what are the they can cause more of the adhesion formation. So these are the minimal invasive surgery. Now what are the indication when you have to treat even the non-symptomatic fibroid? We know that only symptomatic fibroid need treatment. There are some condition when even non-symptomatic fibroid, they need asymptomatic fibroid, they need treatment. So they are when it is causing infertility. So infertility becomes the symptom in that case. So you cannot say that it is asymptomatic. But because she has not come to you with menorrhagia or dysmenorrhea, she has come to you as a case of infertility, and you have come across this condition in her and you have ruled out other causes of her infertility, you may subject her to myomectomy. But in that case only 40 to 50% success is achieved. So infertility, in cases of infertility even asymptomatic fibroids need treatment. Then fibroid, if it is more than 12 week size, if it is a palpable abdominally, also 12 weeks is inside the pelvis. If you put a hand on her abdomen and you can palpate the fibroid, it is better to subject her because of its mass effect. Women may feel heaviness in her abdomen and it becomes inconvenient for her to live her normal life. Also, if it is a pedunculated subserosal fibroid, it is better to remove it because it may undergo torsion even though it is asymptomatic. Then what else? If fibroid is present and it is causing pressure symptoms either on urethra, she is getting frequency of urine without any UTI, and there is a fibroid in the anterior wall, or suppose she is having a broad ligament fibroid which is compressing her and causing hydronephrosis. So these are the condition where you need to do surgery even in case of when the fibroid is even asymptomatic. And rapidly growing fibroids, we have discussed what is the definition of rapidly growing in the previous lecture. You will get the link in the description box, go through that also. And also in all symptomatic fibroids, apart from these symptomatic, all other symptomatic fibroids, they need treatment. Treatment can be either medical or it can be minimal invasive or it can be surgical. So minimal invasive surgery, it is uterine artery embolization, and you can go for hysteroscopic removal of submucous fibroid, or you can go for laparoscopic myomectomies or laparoscopic hysterectomy. So laparoscopic hysterectomy will become definitive surgical treatment. Laparoscopic myomectomy will come in minimal invasive surgery. So these are the condition, treatment option which is available. Also along with this treatment, don't forget to add iron preparation in her prescription, because she is definitely anemic if she is having menorrhagia, and so you have to also build up her hemoglobin along. So what are the complications? What are the complications of myomectomy? First of all, what are the pre-operative requisites for myomectomy? Myomectomy is not a simple thing, just remove कर लो उसको, छोटा सा है. It is not a simple thing. It is for a gynecologist, total abdominal hysterectomy is easier than a myomectomy, to be very frank. But for a woman, myomectomy preserves the uterus, so we should opt for it when it is indicated. So when it is pre-operative, hemoglobin should be restored. You know that you will put her to myomectomy few months later, so you can go for auto transfusion also. She can bleed, she can donate blood which can be used later on. So there are the chances of blood borne infection, they are minimized. So this you can do, auto transfusion. Then what else? You have to explain her that although we are doing myomectomy, but in case the bleeding is not controlled during myomectomy, we may need to put you to hysterectomy. So this is very important. You should be very clear and make it clear to the patient also. Although chances are very less, but it is there. So you should be aware, because sometimes even if a woman is having infertility and it is because of some other reason, you have come to know, and she is also having a fibroid, so she insists, okay, do my myomectomy. Then you have to explain her, we will first treat that part of your infertility, maybe you get pregnant, and if even if after treating that part of infertility you are not getting, then we will subject you to myomectomy, because during myomectomy the need may arise that we need to perform a total hysterectomy. So this is make it very clear to the woman and her husband. So don't make a haste to put herself to a myomectomy seeing a fibroid in the ultrasound report. Now what else? It should be done in a pre-ovulatory menstrual cycle, because all the surgeries or pelvic surgeries we prefer doing in pre-ovulatory phases, because of the less blood flow and less risk of bleeding. So now you can do it either open laparotomy or you can do it by myomectomy. So what are the contraindication for laparoscopic myomectomy? What are the contraindication? If the uterine size is more than 16 weeks gravid uterus. If the uterine size is more than 16 weeks gravid uterus, it is better to avoid the laparoscopic myomectomy and put her to a open myomectomy. Then what else is the contraindication? If there are more than 4 fibroids in her uterus, it is better to do a open laparotomy myomectomy instead of laparoscopic myomectomy. So these are the conditions that you should be aware of. And what are the complications? Complications of any surgery, it is surgery related only. What is that? Hemorrhage. Hemorrhage can occur in any surgery post-operatively. It is primary, or it is reactionary, or it is secondary. So these 3 kind of hemorrhage is the complication of any surgical treatment. Either you doing surgery in gynecology, or you are doing surgery in obstetrics, or you are doing surgery in general surgery, or you are doing surgery in ENT. Any surgical procedure, they have their primary, reactionary or secondary hemorrhage as the complication. Never forget them. And no, they can be minimized, but they cannot be made nil. If a surgeon says that I have never seen primary or reactionary or secondary hemorrhage in my cases, that means he has not done much of the cases, because if you are doing, then you are set to bound that you come across these complications. It is mandatory, because they are part of this surgery. So you should never feel ashamed that in my case, that case I got a primary hemorrhage or I got the secondary hemorrhage. You should not be feeling bad for that. Now what next? Trauma. If you are doing surgery in the pelvis, you can trauma her bladder, or if you are removing a broad ligament fibroid, you may cause injury to the ureter. Also post-operative adhesions, they are said to occur. Now recurrence of fibroid. If suppose you have put her to myomectomy for infertility, there are chances that she can, because it is her body only, once she has developed that monoclonal fibroid by some either mutation or something, she can again develop it. So recurrence should also be told to the person. And these are the conditions and treatment. If you like the video, so subscribe to the channel. If you have any doubts, ask question in the comment box. I will be happy to reply. And for being in touch and for getting updates of newer videos, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks a lot.